moment the light goes out, we revert to the primitive. For the darkness breeds horror and monsters, vampires and torture. Do you care for a good scare? Do you enjoy being delightfully frightened? There's always something awful out there, just beyond the shadows, or something unspeakable about to happen in some sinister dungeon. There's nothing like a horror movie for drawing crowds anxious to pay for flesh creeps in the dark. From the gothic nightmares of those Transylvanian aristos, Count Dracula and Baron Frankenstein, up to the plebeian blobs of today, terror's always been honorable coinage in the currency of arts. 70 years ago, film was seen to be an ideal medium for the creation of horror. Today, the cult spreads to TV. The script editor of BBC Two's late-night horror series, Richard Davis, considers the unholy transference of the human spirit to animals, looks beyond the grave.
Because man didn't know quite what happened when he died, what death signified, he created his own sinister mythology to cover this. And this is what writers have been playing on ever since, and movie makers too.
If you go to a horror movie, are you satisfying that need? Because that is horror several times removed, isn't it? You can just get up and walk out, and you can cut off the horror.
If horror means monsters and coffins opening and blood being sucked, then I don't want to know about it. I mean, I can't believe in it.
In order to write horror stories, you have to believe what you're writing while you're writing it.
Christopher Lee, who's played every major horror character from a mummy to Rasputin, a long charnel house career in Transylvania, which you might think would spill over into life in London, SW1.
Oh, not at all. Not in any way whatsoever. You mean personally, from my own point of view? No, not at all. Naturally, I'm recognized by people in my private life, but it's entirely to do with my professional life. I'm thankful to say there's no other effect.
What do you think is the major appeal of horror? Why are we drawn to it?
Principally, I suppose, escapism, because it's utterly unlike our real lives, which I suppose today are inclined to be perhaps humdrum. I think that this particular kind of film gives you a jolt, an emotional jolt. You can help you to blow off steam, an emotional safety valve. But principally, escapism into a world of fantasy and unreality and the weird, which I think we harbor within all of us. A basic, perhaps subconscious love for things that we don't understand and don't know.
Many people, of course, see all horror movies as decadent and unwholesome and dangerous.
Oh, I think that's absolute nonsense. I don't see in what way they're dangerous.
Catering for the lower instincts, really.
I don't think so at all. No, I think if a person is already unbalanced, and I think they're very much in the minority, one is always talking about a majority audience, obviously. I think if a person is already unbalanced or has perverted habits or thoughts, perhaps this might, on occasions, push them over the edge slightly. Otherwise, I think it's just a question of the audience going to be entertained, and they enjoy it. I don't think it does them any harm at all, particularly the kind of film I've done, because they really do know in their heart of hearts that in most cases, in the films I've done, it can't happen.
Monsters are not easy to create. Filmmakers found enormous spiders successful but expensive. The newer type, amorphous blob or octopoid globule, is regarded in the industry as a triumph because it's cheap and nasty. However, films still need a few flesh and blood ghouls in good shape. In a Marylebone gymnasium, professional monsters train for their next X-picture. What sort of monster roles have you played?
A dacoit in The Brides of Fu Manchu.
What did you have to do?
I had to attack a garrison, plus fight the opposition.
What happened to you?
I was thrown into a snake pit.
But even upside down, you don't really seem the monster type to me.
No, I don't. No, I played the part of a nun.
This is not horror, is it?
No, it isn't.
What are they looking for? What sort of monsters do they look for?
Well, they're looking for big, ugly, vicious types.
Whereas?
I don't think I'm that.
What sort of horror roles have you played?
A hatchet man in the Fu Manchu series, Egyptian assassins, and the last thing I done in a horror was a demented killer. That was out in Germany. And
What did they have to do to you for that?
for the Fu Manchu, I was made up. That is to say, just on my eyes. They thought my features could get by, but in Germany they were quite elaborate.
What did they do to you?
Oh, they put some stuff in my eye. It gave my face kind of a weird, gruesome look. And also they made up my hand, like my hand had been slashed open, which was prominent throughout, and it was pretty effective.
What sort of horror roles have you played?
Well, I've been a sort of a Mighty Thou sort of thing, you know, which is a very muscular sort of guy. And also I played part of a monster from another planet in Doctor Who and the Daleks.
What makeup did you have to have there?
Oh, well, I had a sort of a long blonde wig, and my face was all painted in different colours, with long eyelashes and eyebrows.
Doesn't sound very monstrous, actually.
Well, he's a fearsome sort of guy if you've seen him, you know.
How about you? Excuse me, I can't quite see you there. What sort of roles have you played?
Oh, I've been in several roles, usually assassin or the karate expert, play the Japanese parts. And
What sort of makeup did you need for that?
oh, I had a scar across my face and I had a moustache.
That's pretty horrific.
Yes, they blackened my hair,
Yes.
comb it on the side.
Fine, don't let me interrupt you. Carry on. The least successful monsters are animals. They seem to find it more easy to be lovable, even literate. Horror by sight, simple. By sound, elusive. Elisabeth Lutyens, a serious composer, must create the sound of terror. For a monster should be heard, but not quite seen. She's aware that her background music merely sets the scene for an attack by a disembodied brain, or the siren call of some demonic creature luring people to an unspeakable death.
Every film I do, I take seriously. I'm on its premise during the time I'm writing it and suspend criticism, because all my job and what I've been paid for, and I'm old-fashioned enough to think the client is always right, is to do my contribution to make this film. In a way, they're like modern fairy tales. Fairy tales are pretty grim, aren't they? I mean, this is not a pun. They are also grim fairy tales. And if you notice, the first song you're supposed to soothe babies to bed is "Rockabye Baby, the Cradle Will Fall," which is a very odd way, you come to think of it, to make a fit child feel safe in bed. And most children like horrors.
Ah, 7 nightcaps, he said to himself. These must be the boys for my breakfast. And he chopped off the heads of the 7 little giants. The boys ran away as fast as they could. But when morning came, the giant was very angry. "Bring me my 7-league boots," he roared. Then he set off at once to search for the boys, striding over houses and trees, taking 7 leagues at each step. But his foot became caught in the branch of a tree, and he fell to the ground and was killed. Hopper my thumb...
Killed?
Yes, dead, absolutely.
Why was he killed?
Because he tripped over and broke his neck.
But he broke his neck. Was it carved off?
Pull your hair off, do they?
No.
Did I pull your nose off?
No.
They pull all your teeth out, though.
They don't.
They
They pull your... They don't. They don't. They don't. They chop your head off. They get a big saw and chop your head off, don't they? Because they'll freeze you and cut your hand off, aren't they? They can take your hand off like that. They've got sort of claw things. And they go like that, and your hand off. And then they take their pinky things off, and they look at it, and the people look at it, and they say that they've got no arm, except blood.
Exterminate all humans!
Such childish appetite for gore, such juvenile appreciation of the grisly, has been satisfied by television's early evening horror series for space-age tots, the Daleks of Doctor Who. These are the villains of children's hour, the heavies. perambulating metal monsters with a tendency to exterminate. They've had a comfortingly unhorrific effect upon the life and surroundings of their creator, a former comedian turned scriptwriter, Terry Nation. Those who cater for the public taste have always found the monstrous a profitable preoccupation. Bela Lugosi made several £100,000 from Dracula. Boris Karloff's Frankenstein cost less than £100,000, but earned $5 million. Now television offers its rewards. So this is how it all began.
That's it.
How did a Dalek come to be a heavy?
Well, I needed a villain in a very quick job. There was going to be these 6 episodes of Doctor Who, which was take the money and fly like a thief. I needed a villain, and the Daleks appeared somehow. I couldn't tell you an interesting story. They were just a villainous creature that came out of nowhere.
And what is there about a dodger like this that is villainous, you think?
I suppose it's the fact that it is totally non-humanoid, that it has no arms or legs, no facial distinction, so it's not something that's a man dressed up. It really is something that actually works and is created from science fiction. It really belongs to science fiction and not to humanities.
And did they frighten children?
Yes, although this was never the intention originally. I wanted a villain, but nothing that would horrify them particularly, but apparently it did horrify them.
But in their mechanical way, isn't there something almost cozy about it?
I wouldn't have thought so, but people have said so, yes. I think that the mechanical part of it is in some way reflecting bureaucracy and the very mechanical life that we face today. I don't think they're cozy at all.
And children, you say, some children were horrified and they had to watch it through cracks in doors.
Oh yeah, they were horrified, but they never stopped looking. That was the beauty of it. We got the letters came from the parents saying, how dare you put these things on, but the letters came from the kids saying, please don't stop.
This was quite a healthy sort of fear. There is some fear which is perhaps a little unhealthy. The Daleks were a healthy fear.
But yeah, I think it's as healthy an emotion as wanting to laugh or wanting to cry, wanting to be sad. I think it's one of those emotions that we need to fulfill fairly frequently.
Now, how do you set about as a writer frightening people?
I think there are some pretty well-worn paths that still work well. Classic things like snakes and spiders and dark doorways, hands that reach in out of camera, things of this sort. They're fairly classic things, but basically you need one good, horrific idea.
Barbara Steele is perhaps the most striking and buoyant female monster. She first appeared professionally as Snow White, but her role has since changed. Her dialogue, however, still has the authentic ring of those 7 dwarfs.
Good heavens, I'm soaking wet.
I find myself always almost playing the same role. In fact, I have a really spooky feeling that I just made the same film over 9 times.
And what do you do in this role? What do you have to do?
Oh, I usually have to seduce an enormous amount of men.
Well, that's not horror, huh?
Well, that depends. And,
You've been immersed in horror for so long now. Do you find within these films an attitude that spills over into your everyday life?
I hope not.
What about your fan mail, for example? What sort of people write to you?
Oh, men.
I believe that, yes.
An awful lot from southern Italy. Places like, very obscure places like Bangkok and Hong Kong and very obscure places where one imagines everybody having very tidy, precise lives, and in effect, you don't... What do they say? I think fan mail is universal, you know, except that they are always sending me pictures of themselves rather than asking of them.
But I mean, they're proposing to you or something like this.
Oh, yes. But they do that with everybody, don't they?
Yes, but everybody doesn't play the part of a man-eating vampire.
Yes, it's very bizarre, isn't it? I can't imagine why they propose to me, because I'm such a castration symbol.
The cinema has no monopoly of castration symbols and such like jargon. Here, you might say, an erotic projection of oral sadism. You might also say, just another vampire at it. A married couple and a floating, fatal temptress adapted by the Western Theatre Ballet from Le Fanu's story of Carmilla, a bloodthirsty girl.
If one's doing a ballet as such, the medium is a strange one to work in. What I wanted to do there, rather than just do a straightforward horror ballet, you know, which I don't think would go down, was to show a relationship between three people and bringing out the sort of lesbian side of the relationship between the two women, in it, which I'm afraid came out far too much because everybody thought they were just two lesbians, and when she turned out to be just a simple old vampire, people were rather disappointed.
Would you expect people who enjoy ballet to also to enjoy horror?
Certainly, why not? It's a perfectly normal, everyday thing, I think.
I see.
Peter Darrell's normal everyday activities rehearsed in a South London church hall. Vampires, casting no reflections, throwing no shadows, ruled the horror roost for years, until displaced by man-made monsters with bolts in their necks. A child born with teeth, it said, will become a vampire, and in some lands they suspect those with red hair or blue eyes. For 70 years, the head vampire, Dracula, has been blood-sucking his way around the world, never out of print or victims, or thirsty followers.
I don't like my monsters to have Oedipus complexes at all. I don't know, it's not right. For me, anyway, it's pure escapism, really. And a sort of cult. I like going somewhere sort of Walthamstow. It makes it more important if one can sort of get there and, you know, make it a bit difficult. But, I don't know, I'm a great fan.
You say you don't like your monsters to have Oedipus complexes, thanks. How do you like them?
Oh, straightforward. A bit ghouly, a bit wrapped up in hair. I don't like them to have, to be too sensible, really. I like it as sheer escapism as such. And therefore, if you're going to go and sort of delve into the minds of the whole thing, I go to other things for sort of intellectual stimulation. All I want is just sit back, relax, and be a bit horrified by it all.
So what is horror to you?
Horror is a good old Gothic castle with a couple of nice people being chased around by a ghoul in the middle of the night. Really. As I said, it is hands round the door. It's the shadow that is more menacing than the reality that I find terrifying. Immediately you see it, then, you know, you can deal with it.
And what sort of thing does the average horror fan go for?
Well, I enjoy, you know, what happens in it, especially if it's, you know, a killer in it, and you get like doctors operating, cutting them up in it, taking their brains out and sort of fixing animal brains in, so in terms of mental, makes them tear people apart.
Do you ever feel at all squeamish about this?
You don't see enough of it. You see them with a knife, but they've always got it covered up.
In parts, it makes you feel sick. It did me, didn't it?
I suppose it was his teeth and the way the blood came down the side of his face.
I don't quite understand. If it makes you feel sick, why you enjoy it?
I don't know. It's just that, you know, just that feeling of blood, action. We just seem to go for these sort of films.
All of us have fantasies of horror in our minds, most of which seem to date from very early childhood. We're all liable to be frightened by much the same sorts of things, but it's terribly reassuring to go and see a horror movie and then come out and think, well, after all, that was unreal, it was only a movie.
So horror movies fulfill a useful role, you're saying?
I think they fulfill a useful role, yes. And the fact that many of them are absurd, of course, makes their frightening effect less, really. It becomes so absurd that it obviously is absurd, as it were, and so that one doesn't need to take it so seriously. I don't think the thesis that seeing a horror film makes you go out and do something violent is tenable. There's absolutely no evidence that this is so, as far as I know.
Scratch a psychiatrist, it seems, and you find a horror film advocate, exonerating such double bills as The Blob, a blood-bloated mass of man-eating slime, with its health-giving supporting feature, I Married a Monster, things from beyond the stars here to breed with human women. You'd think only a sick society could bear the hoardings, let alone the films.
If you could pick up the sword, lift it up, and test it for sharpness on your thumb. Looking down at it.
beautiful.
We're just really participating in this ceremony, this black magic ceremony, which is invoking the devil as our great character against Jesus Christ and God, you see.
That, in fact, is your son there, who's just
They always
made
have
that...
a young virgin, as a rule, for the sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day when they were rehearsing the film, he got the sword just a little bit too near to her neck, and it just nicked it across a little bit.
I suppose a naked sacrificial virgin must expect to get nicked now and then. The whole cult has always had its pornographic undertones, especially in its doubtful literature. Imported American horror comics, banned for children though on general sale, could hardly be less comic, featuring grisly stills and stories, and specialized mail-order merchandise like do-it-yourself monster makeup kits. But now, in this bookshop here, you sell fetishistic magazines, and you sell pornography, sort of pornography, and you sell a lot of girly magazines,
yes.
presumably.
Completely separate. They don't buy the same ones.
The people who buy horror magazines aren't interested in the other thing.
No.
Well, do you think is it a sexual attraction, a horror magazine?
Sex is the least thing they have in horror. There might be a bit of sadism in some of the pictures where some people buy it for that, but half the time there's never that sort of thing in it.
For example, these magazines that offer masks for sale. Who would want to buy some foul-looking mask? What would be the pleasure in buying this?
They just want to frighten people, just to get a shock out of them. And well, as you get it in pictures, people take girls there. The girls get frightened, cuddle up to the boys. That's why they're going to see them. That's what it is, most of the films like that. The girls go, they want to be frightened. It's just an excuse to cuddle up to their boyfriends.
Well, that seems normal enough, but if you come in here and buy one of these magazines, you're not going to cuddle up to anybody, presumably.
No.
What do you think the effect of horror films and these horror books is upon people?
It develops their imagination. Instead of going out and doing something, they imagine it.
Well, couldn't this be unhealthy?
No. The healthiest thing I can think of is people reading about it instead of doing it.
If you put a nude on skulls, it shows you what we are trying to do. No, it's horror in it, and there's sex. Sex will sell anything, right?
Yeah, but we don't want to sell for that kind of market, do we? It's a serious
We
magazine.
want to sell it to anyone.
No,
We just want to sell it.
We used to at first, but now we've got a decent circulation. We don't need to do that so much now.
Well, I think we do.
But I still like nudes on covers anyway.
Yeah, sure, if they're justified, but not just for the sake of having them.
Our hardcore readers will buy it. They'll always buy our issues, won't they?
Yeah, but you can't... Yeah, sure, you rely on people who
Well,
always
people
buy
aren't going to stop one magazine just because it's got a nude woman on the front cover, are they?
And if we're just going to be like Man's Own every issue, it defeats the point, doesn't it?
Man's Own. We haven't got nude men in it, you know.
No, you know what I mean? Well, you know, those men's magazines with women on the front, you know. You've seen
Do you
not that bad.
Do you like the pro monster magazines? Just have monsters ravishing women.
Yeah, but we shouldn't have to, should we? We're not relying on a publisher to make money.
We only have a sensational cover for the shops.
We started this magazine because it was something we liked.
Horror of a sort is ever ready. The murderers, wide-eyed and thoughtful, still provide schoolchildren on their annual treat at the Chamber of Horrors with the same safe shudder that their grandparents once enjoyed. A solemn and sleepless bunch of white-collar killers balefully considering today's coach parties. In a curious way, Tussauds is respectable horror, isn't it? Parents who'd be reluctant to let their children go to a horror movie would quite happily bring them here.
Oh yes, Tussauds is respectable, you see. The thing is that in its heyday, I mean, the Chamber of Horrors was an improving place. It wasn't just for sort of horror and titillation. It really was improving.
This is educational.
Oh yes. I mean, this is what happened, you know, my dear, said the nanny to her charge. This is what will happen if you go off the rails, you see. You'll finish up here.
So now, this bunch of Victorian respectability was what you found more frightening.
This really worried me, because there they all are, so respectable. They all look as though they're sort of dressed for church. And look at Mrs. Dyer there, you see. I mean, she strangled babies incessantly for gain. Really very nasty.
Most of your murderers here, like this young woman, are Victorian or comfortably past.
Yes, yes.
Apart from we've got Heath and Haig and Christian
Yes, I
and
think those are
Ratty.
the last.
Why is it that you're not keeping up to date? What's happened to the Moors murderers, for example?
Well, I think really people are suddenly rather embarrassed by it. They feel it's no longer right to have these people for everybody to gaze at. I mean, when these women were first put in this little exhibition, this was an object lesson, you see. This was something you looked at and came away wiser and better.
So, for 7 and sixpence, a silent object lesson at the waxworks, or for 5 shillings, a therapeutic scream at Lord Sutch. What made you adopt your particular brand of stage horror?
Well, I've always been interested in horror and horror films, so I decided to sort of put this to beat music, as beat music was coming very, very popular in Great Britain. So we put horror to beat music and found out it was tremendously successful.
So how do your type of fans react to horror?
Well, they love it. They come to see horror. They pay 5 or 6 shillings to see me, the same as they go and see a horror film. They're looking forward all week to being frightened to death.
Isn't this a romp for them? Isn't it a giggle?
I'd say 50% it's a giggle, but we treat our horror in a very serious way, because you can't force horror. It's either inside you or it's not inside you. You've got to believe in it 100%, and myself and my group believe in it 100%. We watch all the latest horror films and anything connected with horror, and we put our ideas to these, and then put music to them, and there we have a sort of Victorian stage show.
But horror has been a pretty rewarding activity for you, hasn't it?
Oh yes, I'd say I had 90% of our success on horror. The horror records, the Jack the Rippers, Fallen in Love with the Monster Man, Dracula's Daughter, and a very successful one, All Black and Hairy.
Ray Harryhausen exists in the realm of fantasy. An animator, he's devoted his life to the creation of fearsome mini-monsters, taking painstaking pictures frame by frame and fitting them into the background of full-sized films already shot around actors. What effect do you think your prehistoric monsters and your space blobs have upon the children in the audience?
Oh, I think they love them because they deal with the imagination. And, for example, my daughter, she's 4 years old, and she has never been horrified by these. We never taught her that they're horrible creatures or that they shouldn't be considered a living thing. And she has just treats them as though she would a cat or a dog. And I think it's purely the adult that trains a child to fear something. And I'm sure when she gets older, she'll study them in school and see that there's a scientific background for them, even though they are involved in a fantasy type of background for our particular type of film. And I know she wheels our little friend here through Herod sometimes as a playmate, this chap.
The essence of fear is man's inborn terror of the unknown, coupled with his curiosity. In this century, horror's forced its way into the mainstream of Western culture. By the early 20s, the undead were stirring, and suddenly in the 30s, they rose from their graves in triumph. Gothic classicism night-bloomed its brief midnight, then commercialism snatched the body. Once upon a night-time, horror knew when to stop, for the most fearful terrors are those we never see. But unhappily, the power of suggestion was abandoned, and X-film zoomed in as eyeballs and brains, warm and rushing with blood, plopped into beakers. Horror became equated with disgust.
We're going to have the Chopin Funeral March played 1 octave lower, which is very, very scary, and this is the same sort of gloomy mood.
That's right.
It's
Well,
the
let's
same
suggest
frightening
the
mood
whole
that we
as though the piano had taken possession of the entire decoration of the place. It is the dominant personality.
Yes, because it owns this room, as it owns the boy who plays it.
Yeah,
Yes, very good.
And then it gives us a wonderful contrast against the colour of the rest of the sets.
Very good, yes.
How do you set about making a piano murderess?
Well, we don't like to use monsters in our films because monsters are not at all scary. The minute you see them, you say, "Oh, that's a man in makeup."
But a piano's not very scary either.
It is once you set up the story. The story is that this boy's mother, who was very, very possessive, has given him this piano, and she's since died. And in effect, her spirit has taken over the piano. Now, any everyday object that doesn't act like an everyday object, if you're cutting your steak with a knife and the knife jumps up and stabs you, this knife, if you think it's got a spirit in it, is terribly frightening, much more frightening than a man in makeup. Horror is a fear of what is going to happen. The minute you show it, the minute it happens, you're no longer frightened.
There's no horror except inside your own mind. You know the old saying, it's all in the mind, and this is absolutely true.
Now, what is in the minds of the kind of audience that will go to one of your films, do you think?
Well, there are several kinds of audience. There is the kind of audience that goes simply in order to see gruesome things. And there's a kind of film that caters to this audience.
To be disgusted?
Yes. Yes, they like it. There's a kind of audience that likes the idea of being frightened while in the safety of their own seats. They know very well that they're perfectly safe in the cinema, that nothing's going to happen to them, and they can let their imagination roam and feel frightened.
They have a vicarious thrill.
The luxury of being soothed by a nightmare, of adjusting one's emotional health by submitting to safe shocks. A lover of ghost stories need not be a believer in ghosts. All that's needed is the suspension of disbelief. But man has always needed monsters and still does, perhaps because we seek the monster from which we arose, and so set aside our 20th century skepticism to relish a race memory stirred by half-belief in the unbelievable. Many old monsters were robust fellows. The head tucked under the arm could well be smiling. But today our sense of evil is more fertile, and new terrors come from a deeper, more intimate inferno. Perhaps we've seen the kingdom of hell within us. But whatever happens, horror can never be killed off. Tombs will still creak open, and Carpathian churchyards, rich in ancient graves, will surrender their living dead. Dracula's fangs will sink into soft flesh, zombies get out of hand in the West Country, and the empty eyes of Frankenstein's monster will open once again. Around each corner lurks some nightmare thing we could never imagine, and sometimes it's not wise to look behind you.